Rising above the clouds in the Tibetan plateau, one mountain casts a shadow deeper than its height. It is not the tallest nor the most dangerous, yet no one has ever stood on its peak. Pilgrims bow in reverence. Scientists scratch their heads. And hidden in its icy silence are secrets too sacred or too strange to touch. This is Mount Kailash, the mountain no one dares to climb. Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something truly special. We're trekking into the very heart of an enigma, Mount Kailash.
It's more than just a mountain, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't just any peak. It's held sacred by 4 major religions. It's fiercely protected, banned for mountaineers. And it's just surrounded by theories stretching from the really profound spiritual stuff to, well, things that sound almost extraterrestrial. Our mission, as always, is to sift through the sources we've gathered, pull out the most important bits, the key nuggets of knowledge, basically giving you a shortcut to being truly well-informed about this incredible place.
And incredible barely covers it. When you really dig into the stories, the history of Kailash, it becomes obvious this isn't just geology we're talking about.
Right.
It's like a focal point where, ancient beliefs, these really unexplained phenomena and complex modern politics all just converge. It really defies any easy explanation, challenges how we think about things.
Okay, so to really get a handle on Kailash, its significance, we probably need to start way back, right? With its ancient role as the spiritual center.
Exactly.
Our sources keep calling it the Axis Mundi, the center of the world or the universe, a place where supposedly the veil between our world and the divine is thin.
That's the idea. And visually, it's just striking, completely unique.
Yeah, that pyramid shape with 4 distinct faces, almost perfectly aligned, apparently.
It's really quite something. And the way this one single mountain holds such deep meaning for 4 completely different major faiths, that's extraordinary.
Okay, break that down for us. Who reveres it and why?
Well, for Hindus, it's the eternal home of Lord Shiva, the destroyer, the transformer. He lives there with his consort Parvati.
Okay, Shiva's home. Got it.
Then for Buddhists, it's the home of Demchok, or Chakrasamvara. He's a manifestation of Buddha symbolizing supreme bliss.
Supreme bliss. Okay.
Jains call it Ashtapada. It's where their very first Tirthankara Rishabhadeva is believed to have achieved liberation. Moksha.
Liberation. Wow. Okay, 3 down.
And finally, the Bun tradition, which actually predates Buddhism in Tibet. They see it as the 9-story swastika mountain. It's the seat of their sky goddess, a place of just immense power.
So, Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Bun. It's one of the very few places on Earth where 4 major faiths all point to the same spot, literally around one single mountain.
It's incredible convergence, yeah.
And central to all of this is pilgrimage, right?
Yeah.
Walking around. The Kora.
Absolutely, the Kora, or parikrama in Sanskrit. It's this circumambulation, walking around the base of the peak.
And why do they do that? What's the belief?
It's believed to purify the soul, to accelerate spiritual growth. Some even believe it can fundamentally change your karma. It's a profound act.
That sounds intense. Is it a difficult journey?
Oh, very. The main outer Kora, it's about 50 kilometers long, and it reaches a really high point, the Dromala Pass, which is, let me check. Yeah, 5,642 meters. That's seriously high altitude.
Wow. And there's something about the direction they walk.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hindus and Buddhists traditionally go clockwise.
Yeah.
But Bun followers, they go counterclockwise.
Huh. Different paths around the same center.
Exactly. And it's not just the walk. There's also Lake Mansarovar nearby, a sacred lake.
Right. You mentioned that bathing in it.
Bathing in its waters is believed to wash away the sins of lifetimes.
Lifetimes. That's powerful.
It shows deep commitment, which is why even for pilgrims, there are pretty strict rules. Age limits, usually 10 to 70 for the trek. Health requirements, too.
Makes sense, given the altitude and difficulty.
But even if you can't do the trek, aerial views are possible, so everyone can still witness its sheer majesty.
Okay, so here's the big question, the paradox. This mountain, so deeply revered, standing at, 6,638 meters?
That's about 21,778 feet, yeah.
Which is high, obviously, but not, Everest high. Everest is way over 800 meters. Thousands have climbed it, yet Kailash remains utterly unclimbed. Why? What are the actual reasons?
Ah, yes. That's really the core of the Kailash mystery, isn't it? And the reasons are, well, it's a potent mix. Sacred beliefs and very practical hurdles.
Let's start with the sacred.
Okay. First and foremost, there's this huge religious taboo. Climbing it. It's considered completely forbidden, a desecration.
Like trespassing on holy ground.
Exactly. disturbing the divine energies that are believed to reside there. The summit is seen as pristine, pure, reserved for the gods, essentially.
Yeah.
It's just not meant for mortals to walk on.
So a spiritual keep-out sign, basically.
Very powerful one, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not just spiritual.
Right, you said practical hurdles, too. What about officials? Government?
Precisely. The Chinese government controls Tibet, where Kailash is, and they simply do not issue climbing permits.
Why not?
Officially, they cite respect for religious sensitivities, which is, interesting given the government's official stance on religion.
Atheist state, right?
Right. But it's also undeniably influenced by the mountain's location. It's very close to the border with India, a highly sensitive geopolitical zone.
So both China and India actually legally stop any climbing attempts.
Correct. Due to both the religious feelings and those geopolitical factors, it's sort of locked down from that perspective.
Okay, spiritual taboo, government restrictions. But what if someone could get permission? Is it actually physically climbable? Or is it just too hard?
Well, based on our sources, it seems incredibly difficult, physically formidable.
How so?
Think about that pyramid shape. It means very steep, almost vertical slopes in places. Plus, it's got constant snow cover. Technically, that's a nightmare for climbers.
And the weather. I imagine it's brutal up there.
Notoriously so. Harsh, unpredictable. We're talking powerful winds that can just appear, sudden blizzards, and temperatures that plunge way down, like -20 Celsius in winter.
-20. Okay, yeah.
And don't forget the altitude itself. Over 6,600 meters. That means extreme risk of altitude sickness, serious health problems from the thin air.
And I guess help isn't exactly around the corner.
Not at all. It's incredibly remote. There are no established climbing routes like on Everest, no rescue infrastructure to speak of.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, you're really on your own. The danger level is just amplified massively.
I remember reading about Milarepa, the Tibetan monk. Legend says he's the only one who ever reached the summit.
That's the legend, yes. A highly revered figure in Tibetan Buddhism.
And didn't he warn others not to try?
He did. The story goes he flew to the summit, but then discouraged anyone else from attempting it, saying it would disturb the gods.
Wow. And there are other stories too, right? More modern ones. People approaching the mountain, experiencing weird things.
Yeah, you hear these anecdotal reports, people getting suddenly ill as they get closer, strange, localized weather phenomena, or just this deep, overwhelming feeling that they shouldn't be there, that they don't belong.
Like the mountain itself is pushing them away.
It certainly sounds like it sometimes. It's very telling, I think, that Reinhold Messner.
The mountaineer climbed all the 8,000-meter peaks.
That's the one. First to do it without supplemental oxygen. Apparently, the Chinese government actually offered him a permit to climb Kailash back in the 80s.
Really? What did he say?
He refused. His reasoning was simple. If people believe a mountain is sacred, mountaineers shouldn't touch it. Full stop.
So Everest tempts climbers with challenge and glory.
But Kailash warns them away with something deeper.
It's almost like the mountain has its own defense system.
That's a good way to put it. A combination of natural dangers, spiritual weight, and, well, governmental barriers. A fortress.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit, because it's not just sacred ground, is it? You hear these stories that make it sound like a cosmic glitch, where the normal rules don't quite apply.
Right. This is where Kailash moves beyond reverence into the realm of, well, genuine wonder and the truly unexplained.
What kind of phenomena are we talking about?
Probably the most famous or infamous are the claims about time distortion.
Time distortion? How?
There are these anecdotal accounts, mainly from pilgrims or those who've spent time near the base. They report things like accelerated hair and nail growth.
Seriously, like noticeably faster.
Some claim that, say, 12 hours spent near the mountain feel subjectively like weeks have passed, or that they see growth in hair or nails that would normally take maybe 2 weeks happen in just a couple of days.
That's bizarre. Is there any scientific basis for that?
Well, scientists might point to factors like reduced oxygen at altitude, maybe increased cell turnover, or even dehydration affecting perception or physiology. And, the profound spiritual experience itself could definitely heighten someone's awareness or perception of bodily changes.
But some stories go further, don't they? Like that Russian doctor, Moldashev.
Ah, yes. Ernest Moldashev. He wrote about accounts, supposedly of Siberian climbers, who reached a certain point on or near the mountain and then aged incredibly rapidly, dying of old age within a year or so.
Okay, that's deeply unsettling. Accelerated aging.
It sounds like science fiction, honestly. But these stories persist. Whether they're exaggerated legends or point to something real, who knows? It certainly adds to the mystery.
Definitely. What else? Any other weirdness?
Well, there are reports of magnetic anomalies,
Mhm.
Compasses just spinning uselessly near the mountain, suggesting some kind of unusual magnetic field or interference.
Huh. Like the Bermuda Triangle, but in the Himalayas.
Sort of, yeah. And then there's the visual stuff. At sunset, under the right conditions, the interplay of light and shadow on the western face creates this image, a massive swastika.
And we should be clear, this is the ancient symbol, right? Not the Nazi one.
Absolutely crucial distinction. This is the ancient symbol found across Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and many global cultures for millennia. It represents auspiciousness, good fortune, the sun, the wheel of Dharma, entirely positive meanings, completely distinct from its 20th century misappropriation.
Okay, good. So a natural light show forming a sacred symbol?
Seems so. And speaking of symbols, some people interpret satellite images as showing the shape of the sacred syllable Om on one of the faces, or even the profile of Shiva himself.
Om, the primordial sound.
Exactly. The ultimate mantra in Hinduism, symbolizing cosmic unity, represents inner peace in Buddhism, liberation in Jainism. Seeing it etched onto the mountain adds another layer of profound meaning for believers.
And sounds, you mentioned odd sounds.
Yeah, there are reports, again often linked to Moldashev's accounts, of strange resonant sounds seeming to come from inside the mountain. He even theorized about, well, advanced beings living within it.
Okay, now we're really getting out there, people living inside the mountain.
It's definitely on the more speculative end of things,
Yeah.
but it contributes to this overall picture of a place that's different. Add to that the general lack of vegetation on its slopes, which is also
Sure.
noted as somewhat unusual.
So, time acting funny, compasses going haywire, sacred symbols appearing, weird sounds. It's not just a mountain, it's like a whole collection of anomalies.
It really challenges our conventional understanding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, is it just a collection of strange coincidences and heightened perceptions?
Or maybe, like you said before, some kind of doorway to something we just don't grasp yet.
It's a compelling thought.
Which brings us to maybe the most provocative question of all. That distinct pyramid shape. Is it definitely natural? Or could it be something else?
Ah, the artificial origin theory. Yeah, the striking geometry of Kailash, those four near-perfect faces aligned with cardinal directions, it definitely fuels that speculation. Could it be man-made? Or even not man-made by humans?
Like ancient aliens type stuff?
That's where some theories go.
Yeah.
Moldashev, the Russian scientist we mentioned, he was a prominent proponent of the idea that it might have been constructed by some ancient, perhaps non-human civilization, a giant pyramid.
But what evidence is there beyond the shape?
Well, proponents point to a few things. The geology is interesting. The mountain is composed of this black rock that's apparently quite rare for the region. And there's an observation about the snow cover being anomalous. Apparently, the northern slope holds significantly less snow than the southern slope.
Why is that weird?
Because in the northern hemisphere, you typically expect the north-facing slopes, which get less direct sunlight, to hold more snow and ice, not less. It's counterintuitive.
Huh. I never thought about that.
So some people seize on these peculiarities, the shape, the rock, the snow pattern, as hints that it's not entirely natural. Maybe it's an ancient beacon, some suggest, or a powerful energy hub for the planet, tying back to that whole Axis Mundi idea.
It's wild to think about. You expect pyramids in Egypt, right? Or Mexico, not standing at 22,000 feet in the Himalayas, untouched.
Exactly. Unless, as the theories go, it was deliberately put there or built there for reasons and by means we can't even begin to comprehend.
Mind-boggling stuff. And then right at the foot of this paradox of a mountain, you have these two lakes sitting side by side, but totally different.
That's right. Lake Mansarovar and Rakshas Tal. They're a fascinating contrast.
Tell us about them.
Mansarovar is this huge, beautiful freshwater lake. It's deeply revered, associated with light, purity, divine energy. We mentioned bathing in it cleanses sins.
The good lake, so to speak.
You could say that. And then right next to it, often connected by a channel depending on water levels, is Rakshas Tal, which is saltwater.
Saltwater. Interesting.
And its name means Lake of the Demon. It's associated with Ravana, the demon king from the Ramayana epic, and generally linked with darkness or negative energies. It's often described as stormy or turbulent, in contrast to Mansarovar's calm.
So you have this perfect, almost symbolic duality right there at the base of Kailash. Freshwater and saltwater, light and dark, divine and demonic.
Precisely. Many see it as representing a kind of cosmic yin and yang. the fundamental balance of opposing forces in the universe, creation and destruction, good and evil laid out right there in the landscape.
That's incredible symbolism. And geographically, Kailash plays another huge role, doesn't it, as a water source?
Immense. Absolutely critical. Kailash is the source, the headwaters for four of Asia's most important rivers.
Which ones?
The Brahmaputra, which flows east through Tibet and then down into India and Bangladesh. The Sutlej and the Indus, which flow west into Pakistan, and the Karnali, which flows south into the Ganges in India.
Wow. So those rivers provide water for how many people?
Billions, literally billions across the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia rely on the water that originates from the glaciers and snowmelt around Kailash. It sustains vast ecosystems, agriculture, entire civilizations.
It's almost hard to fathom, how does one single mountain feed a continent like that?
It speaks to its unique position, doesn't it? This central elevated source distributing life-giving water in all directions.
Yeah, it really reinforces that idea. Kailash isn't just geography, it feels like destiny for millions and millions of people.
But this incredible spiritual and geographical significance, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it? It's caught up in some very real, very complex modern politics.
Right. We touched on that with the climbing ban. Let's dig into the geopolitics a bit more. Remind us of the location again.
Okay. Mount Kailash is in the Tibet Autonomous Region, which is controlled by the People's Republic of China. And it's situated very close to what's called the Western Trijunction, where the borders of India, Tibet, under China, and Nepal meet. A very strategic spot.
And China's role is obviously key. They control access.
Completely.
Yeah.
And as we said, they don't issue climbing permits, officially citing respect for religion. But this decision is also inevitably viewed through the lens of broader regional tensions.
Like border disputes.
Exactly. There have been long-standing border disputes between India and China in this wider Himalayan region. Think about the Doklam standoff near Bhutan in 2017, or clashes in Ladakh. China has also been accused of, let's say, actively trying to solidify its claims in contested areas, sometimes altering facts on the ground. This happens in disputes with Bhutan, too. So controlling access to a sensitive area like Kailash fits into that larger picture.
And it's not just about land, is it? It's about water, too. Those rivers originate there.
A hugely important point. China has been building numerous dams on the rivers that start on the Tibetan Plateau. The Yarlung Tsangpo, which becomes the Brahmaputra downstream. China built the Zhangmu Dam on it, operational since 2015, and several others are planned or under construction.
And that worries the downstream countries. India, Bangladesh.
Massively. There are huge concerns about the potential impact on water flow, especially during dry seasons, and the ecological consequences downstream. China usually reassures them it won't have adverse effects, that their dams are mostly run-of-the-river, but the concerns persist. Controlling the headwaters gives you immense leverage.
So, a sacred mountain at the heart of resource control and border tensions. What about Nepal? How do they fit into this picture?
Nepal's in a tricky position, sandwiched between India and China. Historically, it had closer ties with India, but in recent years, we've seen Nepal's alliances shifting somewhat. China's influence has grown significantly through major investments in aid. China's Belt and Road Initiative involves huge infrastructure projects in Nepal. For several years running, China has been Nepal's largest source of foreign direct investment.
And this affects how Nepal deals with Tibetan issues.
It seems so. There's pressure from Beijing on Kathmandu to suppress Tibetan political activities and restrict the movement of Tibetan refugees within Nepal's borders. Nepal officially adheres to the One China principle, recognizing Beijing's sovereignty over Tibet. This is all happening against the backdrop of the thousands of Tibetan refugees who fled to Nepal after the 1959 uprising.
It really is a sacred peak caught right in the middle of a geopolitical tug-of-war.
It truly is. It's interesting, though. Despite these tensions, there's a UNESCO World Heritage angle.
Oh.
Yeah, the Indian part of the wider Kailash landscape in Uttarakhand is on India's tentative list for UNESCO World Heritage status. And both China and Nepal have also proposed the larger cross-border landscape for potential listing. So there's at least some recognition of the need for cooperation on conservation, even amidst the politics.
A small sign of hope, maybe? But overall?
Overall, it paints a stark picture. When gods, or at least deeply sacred sites, meet governments and strategic interests, truth, transparency, sometimes even reverence can become casualties.
Which brings us to maybe a more philosophical point, a kind of moral dilemma, perhaps.
How so?
Well, think about it. We're fascinated by these cosmic mysteries, these potential time warps and hidden energies around Kailash. We pour energy into exploring the unknown, the potentially paranormal. Should we be?
What's the alternative you're suggesting?
I mean, look at the world. We have massive, urgent problems right here on Earth. Climate change threatening our existence, grinding poverty affecting billions, wars, conflicts, humanitarian crises. Shouldn't our focus, our resources, our deep dives be on solving those things first before we chase after ancient secrets on a remote mountain?
That's a really powerful question.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront our priorities, doesn't it? Why are we so drawn to mysteries like Kailash when there's so much tangible suffering and work to be done right here?
Is it escapism? A search for meaning outside the messy reality?
Perhaps. Or maybe Kailash, in its mystery, acts like a mirror. It forces us to look at ourselves, at our motivations. What are we really seeking when we explore these things? Is it knowledge, transcendence, or just distraction?
Maybe it's not just about the mountain itself then.
Maybe it's about us, about why we feel so compelled by the unknown, the sacred, the unexplained. What is that relentless curiosity, that pull towards enigma? Tell us about the human spirit.
In a world racing toward the future, Mount Kailash stands still, untouched, unreadable, unknowable. It asks no questions, yet answers them all in silence. It is not just a peak, it is a prayer. Thank you for being on this trip with us. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay tuned for the next one.